I don't know. That might be Anthony.
What?
We got like a serious amount of background noise going right now.
Sounds like a pinball machine.
Hang on. I don't know. That might
I
be,
hear it.
no, that might be Anthony.
What?
I don't know. That might be
What?
Anthony. I don't know. That might be Anthony.
What?
That might be Anthony. No, that might be Anthony.
What? What? What?
Holy shit. We got like a
What?
serious amount of background. Crazy.
What?
We got like a... That was nuts. Did you hear that? That was crazy.
The frick was that shit?
I have no idea. That's never happened before. Oh my god.
Sound like freaking aliens.
That was nuts. All right, hang on. Let's try this one more time.
Oh my god.
Let's see if they can turn two. There's one. And there's two.
It's a pretty big fish to fry. It's a pretty big fish to fry. My. It's a pretty big fish to fry. It's a pretty big fish to fry. My. Last weekend I barely thought I'd make it out alive. Told myself I'd take time and give some love a try. I was alive.
Oh, everybody, it is Tuesday, August the 8th, 2017. You are checking out the premier sports and beer podcast coming to you from all parts of this country, but tonight We are a Jersey-based show, although we will touch on a little bit of stuff from throughout the country. It's the Turn 2 Sports and Beer podcast. Thanks for taking the time, everybody, to join us. My name is Jeff, and I am joined by two gentlemen tonight, one making his Turn 2 Sports and Beer podcast premiere, his debut, and the other, he's a regular. So before we do anything, let's begin as we normally do.
Why don't you go back home to your strip malls and drink your Zimas and Smirnoff Ices? Oh yeah! The greatest beer in Old Zephyr!
Somebody from the bar.
Yeah, I like cool beverage, yeah. I like cool beverage, yeah. I like cool beverage, yeah. Cause I'm feeling kind of parched. Stick it in the fridge, stick it in the fridge, stick it in the fridge, stick it in the fridge.
All right, so tonight I am enjoying a Vienna lager from the Double Nickel Brewing Company. It was the last one in my refrigerator, and it's going down nice. It's a little smooth. It's not too powerful. It's in the 5s alcohol, so it won't be sloshed by the end of the show. I believe it's a Jersey beer. Cheers. Coming to you from Parsippany. Nick, what do you got?
It was my dad's 60th birthday party this weekend, so we had a lot of
birthday.
Yeah, a lot of leftover beer. So I just grabbed a nice Corona with some lime, right? Because it's summer. Why not?
Summer. And a Corona equals summer. There's something about a Corona that legitimately does taste like summer. Like, even if I have it in the middle of the winter, it's like, oh, that's not right. I'm not supposed to.
Yeah, I should be on the beach right now.
Right. Do you have a big soiree for Pops?
Yeah, big pig roast.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Well,
60-pound hog.
That's good, right?
Oh, yeah.
Nice. All right. From Montville, New Jersey, joining us, like I said, making his debut. First-time caller, long-time listener. We've got Anthony.
Hey, what's up, guys? So tonight I am drinking a 1973 Arnold Palmer iced tea. Nice. And I'm drinking it in my mug of misery, as you can see.
It's even made even more miserable by the nameplate on the cup that is your father. Right, how old's your dad?
72.
72. So he saw Namath win the Super Bowl.
He was there. I'm not sure how much of it he remembers, but he was there.
So he is probably one of very few Jet fans alive that aren't. Maybe they're more miserable now. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think that is? I mean, we'll dive into that later on in the show.
Yeah.
We are dubbing this show the
Misery Loves Company.
The least of the East, the basement of the AFC East. So if you're not interested in listening to talk about two teams in the AFC East that don't win the division every year, I'm telling you right now, you can probably fast forward to about the 50-minute mark of this show and just ignore everything that comes before it, because you're going to hear a whole lot of Jet and Dolphin talk tonight, especially with what's basically going on in the news. So let's get right into it. The Dolphins made some news this week. I don't know if either of you heard. It's been just, very poorly reported. I don't know if any major news outlets have gotten it yet. But the Dolphins quarterback, Ryan Tannehill, got hurt last week or during the weekend or at some point between last week's show and this week's show. And they needed a new quarterback. And so there was a lot of speculation as to who they were going to bring in. As you can imagine, Colin Kaepernick got a lot of love, but they settled on Jay Cutler, which, if Jay Cutler does take a snap for the Miami Dolphins, it is my duty as a man who made a bet on this podcast to drink an entire Mad Dog 40-40 on air during the show, one show. So we have to wait and see to make sure he actually does take that snap. But I think it's important to go right to the fan base for Miami for the hot take reaction as to what's going on. So, Nick, Jay Cutler is now your boy. How do you feel about it?
I mean, I might be in the minority here. Actually, I know I'm in the minority here, but I don't really see why it's so bad of a move in terms of
time out. You lead off with, I don't see how it's so bad of a move, and we're supposed to be like, oh no, it's good. Like that's not how you sell something.
Listen. They have Matt Moore, right? Matt Moore, did you see the hit that he took in that wild card game against the Steelers?
Yeah.
He takes hits like that regularly. Not always that hard, but he takes a lot of hits. So they're figuring, hey, if he can play 12 games this year, that still leaves us with 4 games with no backup. And isn't the point to try to go out and get someone that you think you're comfortable with? You know, football is not like basketball or baseball. You can't just throw someone in there, throw them in the lineup, and have them just kind of wing it, you know. But Jay Cutler knows the language of Adam Gase's offense. He felt comfortable with them. Adam Gase was comfortable coaching him, so he said, hey, I want to go get my guy. They bring him in. What's the worst-case scenario? They're only paying him $5 million against the cap. The $5 million, the rest of the $5 million was a signing bonus out of Steve Ross's billion-dollar pocket. And the rest of the $3 million was incentive-based. One, if they get to the playoffs. One, if they are in the top 10 in offense. And one, if they win a playoff game. So, I mean, it's like if you're going to wind up paying him all that money, he'll be worth it. So I don't see what the big deal is.
I appreciate your capology, okay, as if I give a flying fuck what Stephen Ross is paying anybody on that roster. I could care less. The question isn't, hey, how is his contract scheduled? The question isn't, oh, it's good because it's not basketball or football. The question is, as a Miami Dolphin fan, do you want Jay Cutler as your quarterback?
Yes, why not? He's the best option out there.
Okay. Anthony, why wouldn't you want Jay Cutler as your quarterback?
Because he's Jay Cutler. Plain and simple. I mean, you're sitting there and we're listening to a lot of stories breaking right now about Jay Cutler and how does he turn around and Ndamukong Suh winds up saying, oh, you know, I know he can take a hit. Well, of course he can take a hit. Ndamukong Suh has sacked Jay Cutler more than any other quarterback in his entire career. So great. His best play is the guy can take a hit. That's fantastic. How could you be happy about Jay Cutler being your quarterback? This is the guy that when he was on the market, I said to my friends as a diehard Jets fan, if Jay Cutler puts on a Jets uniform, I am finished. I am done. So you, my friend, are done.
I you know, if you've listened to the show, you know that way back when the season ended and the talk was that Cutler was going somewhere else, I thought he was coming to New York. I really, really did. And
he didn't want to.
I don't think that's true at all. I think here's the big outlier here that I failed to recognize. First of all, there had to have been an injury, right? So Tannehill going down puts the Dolphins in a game that they weren't in up until him getting injured, right? Because before his injury, they were pretty set at the quarterback position for their franchise. Correct, Nick?
Where they had two capable guys that could play.
I mean, some would argue if you have two, you have none, but we'll be okay with that. So they were set. They were set to go into the year with Tannehill as a starter and Moore as the backup. A lot of teams in the league would take that, okay? So the injury happens. That opens the door for Cutler. What I failed to really pay due diligence to is the guy that's running your franchise. I am very familiar with the guy that's running your franchise right now, okay? The guy that's running your franchise right now does things like goes out and gets Brett Favre for a year. Does things like trades multiple draft picks to go pick the quarterback at a USC who is now not able to sniff a job in the league. Does things like meets Darrelle Revis at a freaking random diner in Cortland and signs him to a ridiculous contract. This is the guy that's running your team. Now, I'm not saying that this move is a bad move, but I failed to understand, and Anthony, you can speak to this probably even better than I can. I failed to really factor in the Mike Tannenbaum, part of this equation here. It's a very Mike Tannenbaum move.
Yeah, absolutely. It's got Mike Tannenbaum written all over it. I think the only thing that Mike Tannenbaum could have done that would be of more Mike Tannenbaum was bring in Cleo Lemon. I mean, the guy is a career awful GM. He makes horrible decisions. So sure, he went out and he signed what he figured was the big name out there because obviously no one's going to sign Kaepernick down in Miami, especially given the Castro situation. So we'll leave Colin Kaepernick out of this equation. But yeah, bringing him in was exactly a typical Mike Tannenbaum move. Although I still would prefer Mark Sanchez on my roster than Jay Cutler.
Wow. Really?
That doesn't even make sense. That doesn't even make sense. But put yourself in Miami's shoes, right? They make the playoffs last year based off of a heavy run game and Adam Gase's coaching, wizardry or whatever. Now their quarterback goes down. They're stuck with Matt Moore, who is a very capable backup, but would probably get exposed over 16 games. What are they supposed to do? They're supposed to sit back and say, well, I guess the season's lost. We'll just try to settle for, a 7-9 season. Or are they going to try to get what they feel would be the best option? I don't understand. What do you want them to do?
Well, here's the best option. Do you go with the guy who's never won a playoff game before, who can't even make it through a playoff game because he, I guess his labia hurt too much to finish a game? Or do you go with the guy who's been to 2 AFC title games?
Come on, that's a cop-out. That's a cop-out.
Hold on. You're legitimately sitting here advocating that Mark Sanchez was a better starting quarterback
please
than Jay Cutler.
I'm saying if you look at Jay Cutler's history minus Brandon Marshall, I take Mark Sanchez any day.
Over Jay Cutler.
No, go look at his stats. Go look at Mark Sanchez's stats from the regular season. He was hot garbage. Hot garbage.
Yeah, but look at Jay Cutler's stats in the games he played without Brandon Marshall. They are comparable.
No, they're not. Mark Sanchez's passer rating was in the low 70s, high 60s. He got away because they had dominant running games. Thomas Jones, Ladanius Tomlinson. They had a top defense. That's why they got to the AFC Championship game.
But did you not just say the Dolphins got to the playoffs based on a great running game?
Yeah, but I'm saying, Jay Cutler gives them a better chance to win than Matt Moore. It's plain and simple.
He does give them better.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're going to win the division. I'm just saying, they give him you want to get the best chance possible, and he gives them the best chance possible. Plain and simple.
Anthony, you took this conversation in a direction I did not even possibly see coming, because the fact that you even brought Mark Sanchez into the
how
crazy. The only, and I think you did it a little tongue get the reaction that you got. So kudos to you, it worked. But I do think that the other legitimate conversation that media outlets had, and whether or not it was legitimate or not is something that we can probably debate. Anthony, the other guy that's on the market, you said they wouldn't bring him in, but from a quarterback perspective, who's the better quarterback that you would rather have in your franchise? Would you rather have Kaepernick or would you rather have Cutler?
Okay, so the question comes down to the very simple debate, is that if I'm looking at Jay Cutler versus Colin Kaepernick, and I actually want to win games, then there's no question Colin Kaepernick is the better quarterback. Colin Kaepernick may accidentally win you a few games if his talent returns to form. So to me, if I'm the Dolphins and I'm trying to make the playoffs, then I go with Kaepernick.
So if you were the Dolphins right now, you would not have brought Cutler, and you would have signed Kaepernick.
No, I think Miami's a completely different situation because you can't just make it a football decision considering some of the things that Kaepernick has done, said, worn that would directly affect the opinion of the Miami area.
Okay. Nick, you're close to the situation. You're obviously, I don't know that I'd say you're a fan of the decision, but I don't think that you're against the decision to bring in Cutler.
You just need to understand, like I said, it's football. So language and terminology is difficult to grasp. You can't just throw someone in there. The reason that Jay Cutler was here in a second is because he knew the terminology. Well, Anthony, if it's a neutral team, Jay Cutler, Colin Kaepernick, I would agree with you. Probably Kaepernick. If they both had to learn the offenses from scratch, Kaepernick probably would be the better situation. However, when Jay Cutler knows the coach and knows the situation, it becomes much more clear of a decision that the learning curve is going to be much less steep with Jay Cutler than it would be with Colin Kaepernick.
Agreed. Yeah, I agree with you there.
And I think that was the big decision maker, right? I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
From what I hear, Gase had like one or two conversations with him. They offered him the $10 million, and he was like, "Oh, okay, I guess I won't go to CBS, right? Or Fox. Where the hell was he supposed to?
Fox with Kevin Burkhardt.
Well, the good news is he doesn't have to be in good, physical cardiovascular shape to play.
It's something like that. Like what he might as well have gone to the podium smoking a cigarette. Like really. if he stood up there smoking a cigarette or smoking a cigar, I would have had much more respect for the guy. If he just went out there's like, excuse me, I got to put this out to have this conversation. And he just puts out a cigarette at the freaking podium. Or a Cuban cigar. He's in Miami. That would have been awesome.
I don't think anyone. Go ahead.
I feel like that's a comment that Jared Lorenzen would have made. Like, really? You're a quarterback. You can't, even if you're not in good shape, you don't say that walking in the door. Like, who is he? Donald Trump? He's going to get slaughtered by the media.
Fake news.
I think they said he's been rehabbing because he had that off-season shoulder surgery. But they were talking about reports that Cutler's slinging the ball around in practice, yada yada yada. And I don't think anyone's ever doubted his arm strength. I mean, the guy's had one of the best arms in the league forever. The people that the reason that people are skeptical, including myself, are the fact that people are questioning whether or not he's committed to putting in the work and going to be a good teammate. Is he going to be a leader? Like, that stuff matters, and that's something that people have a big question mark with him.
I don't even think that's his biggest issue. I think the biggest issue is he's got gold, 5-star talent, and he's got dog shit between his ears. He's one of the worst.
And between his legs.
Well, I can't speak to that. I guess
Kristen would disagree.
Yeah. I think that's funny on so many levels. I think the biggest thing on him is I've never seen somebody with more talent with such poor decision making. To me, he's like the equivalent of Joakim Noah. Like Joakim Noah has the highest basketball IQ I've ever seen, but he has dog shit for hands. Like, he can't finish around the rim. He's like the opposite of Cutler. So my big problem would have been had he been a Jet, and I think that the problem you're going to have as a Dolphin is you're going to get into a situation where it's really going to matter, and he's not going to make the right move because that's his MO. His MO is that his stats are great. He's an awesome fantasy football quarterback, and when push comes to shove, he shits the bed every single time.
The other thing is, how's he going to do when the going gets tough? I mean, this guy in the last couple of years literally was quitting on his team. I mean, I questioned his love for playing football. I mean, I'd watch the guy and say, this guy doesn't want to be on the field. So if he gets in the game and takes snaps and starts for the Dolphins, if things are going bad, that's the guy you're going to see. If things are going well and he's confident and having fun again, then you may see the guy who has a cannon for an arm but just has to find the right ocean to throw it in.
Yeah, I think someone made a comment I heard that it's going to come like late November and they're going to be in like a playoff race, like maybe a game or two out or right around in it. And he's going to get, like, be in a cold weather game. He's going to be getting sacked all game, and he's just going to be walking back to the huddle like, why am I not in a warm, toasty announcer booth, and why am I getting my ass kicked on this hard field? And the thing is, I'm not going to be surprised if he shits the bed and becomes a horrible quarterback for us, or if he winds up, playing really well and leads us to some wins, because he's just that type of guy where you don't know what you're going to get. It's like a blindfold. You just like, I don't know if he's going to throw four touchdowns and 300 yards, or if he's going to throw 110 yards and 2 picks. Like, you just don't know.
So let's predict, right? Because nothing's more fun than taking a blind guess before the preseason has even had their first snap for the Dolphins, right? If you had to predict, we'll start with Anthony. If you had to predict what kind of a year Cutler has, let's go stats, right? Yards, touchdowns, interceptions. Those are the only things that I want to hear. You had to give a ballpark number of yards, touchdowns, and interceptions for Cutler. It would be what?
Assuming he starts all 16 games.
Yeah, let's assume he goes in and starts all 16 games.
Okay, if he starts all 16 games, I'm going to say he comes in somewhere in the neighborhood of 2,700 yards, 22 touchdowns, 16 picks.
Okay. First, before I get Nick's prediction, would you take that, Nick, as a Dolphin fan?
I guess like
low yardage. I think.
Yeah, that's not really many yards.
But okay,
that would indicate he's not really throwing much, and he still has 16 picks.
Well, I'm basing the yardage on I think they're going to throw a lot of balls to running backs, so that's where my low yardage comes into play.
Who are your wide receivers, by the way?
Jarvis Landry, Devontae Parker,
and
Kenny Stills.
Doesn't Landry have some legal stuff going on?
No, that's all smoke and mirrors.
Oh
no!
Oh boy! Oh boy! Yampo.
This is JP checking in. just gotta say, I'm at a baseball game. Shut up, stupid.
Okay, good talk.
Hey, Nick, your uncle's an asshole. Just so you know.
Okay.
Anthony, I don't know you, but you look handsome.
Way to break up the flow, Yampo. Yampo checking in from the Nationals game. That's good.
Hey, I'll salute. Have a great show.
Hey, thanks a lot. Tell Bryce Harper we said hello. Little peek behind the curtain. Nick, give us the quote that your uncle said about our podcast.
He's like, I really hate that obnoxious bald guy that comes on your show.
For those of you at home without the benefit of video, that's Yampo. All right, so 2,200 yards, 22 touchdowns, and 16 picks. That was your pick.
No, I said 2,700 yards.
2,700 yards, so just shy of 3,000. Okay.
Yeah,
I think the yards are too low. But all right, Nick, what do you got?
I would say 3,500 yards, 24 touchdowns, like 14 picks.
And you would sign up for that as
I would sign up for that. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's reasonable.
I think it's reasonable. Here's what I think you're going to get, right? And I'm going to tell you why after I give you the stat line. I think you're going to get 3,700 yards, 32 touchdowns, and 17 interceptions. And here's why. You do not owe Ryan Tannehill a thing after this year.
Yeah, no more guaranteed money.
So you're going to get a year out of Cutler that is going to convince your franchise that Jay Cutler is the guy.
Oh, no. Here we go. Here we go.
After this year, you're going to sign him to a 4-year deal.
No, we're not.
Where there's serious guaranteed money in the first 2 years.
Oh.
And then the next 2 years, you're going to watch the year that we watched last year of Ryan Fitzpatrick. That's what's going to happen to your franchise. Anthony, could you not see that happening?
He's exactly right. It's going to be 4 years, $80 million.
Hold on.
Guaranteed.
Hold on. I don't think Jay Cutler gives a shit enough to do that, though. Like, you're saying that he's going to put up these big numbers because he wants to get this big deal. I don't think he cares enough.
No, that's the point. He's not that he's going to do it because he cares. It's that he's actually talented enough to put up those numbers.
He'll just fall backwards into 32 touchdowns.
Yeah, no, I'm telling you, it's gonna happen. He's gonna be. If I had to put the over under at 28 touchdowns, I would take the over. Okay.
I don't know.
I would take that bet in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Only reason I'm saying no is because when Cutler was with Gase in Chicago, that was the first year that Cutler kind of got like dialed back in terms of usage. He only had 21 touchdowns that year, and they ran the ball pretty efficiently with Matt Forte. So I think they're going to try to stick to that sort of game plan. Take the pressure off of him. There's no reason to make him throw 40 times a game.
You don't have anywhere near the running game that those Bears teams had. Matt Forte might go to the Hall of Fame.
Right, but Jay Ajayi was a top 10 rusher last year.
Come on. He's a guy that like halfway through the year he's going to blow out his knee and we're never going to hear from him again. I mean, honestly, the running backs in the league, they're a commodity that disappears very, very quickly.
Maybe you're
Jeff,
right.
I don't think his stats have to be that high in order for him to get that kind of a contract offer from Tannenbaum. If he goes for 3,000 yards with 21 touchdowns and 10 picks, he's getting a big contract.
There is no way that he throws only 10 picks.
Yeah, I haven't said 14.
if he plays all 16,
I'm just saying.
Hold on. If he plays all 16 games and throws only 10 picks, I will do the entire podcast with my shirt off. There's no freaking way.
Can we get that in writing?
Yeah, no, it's recorded now.
All right.
There's no losing.
The minute he throws that 11th pick, you're off the hook.
He's got to start all 16 games and throw, which is questionable, and then he's got to throw, less than 11 interceptions, which is.
But that's
he might throw that
thing,
11th pick in week 3.
That's another thing, though. Like, he's not durable either. Well, like, he doesn't play full season, so like, I guess they're thinking like, let's just try to milk like 11 games out of Cutler, and then Matt Moore can finish the season. I don't know.
See, what you don't understand, Anthony, is because you don't know Nick all that well. Nick is young, right? Nikki, how old? How old are you?
I'm 22.
Nicky's 22. So he
Oh Jesus.
He has not endured long enough to truly understand what's going to happen to his team this year. Cutler's going to have a year that is going to be a rebound year. Everybody's going to say Jay Cutler finally figured it out. And you're going to throw $80 million at this guy, and then you're going to get the same old like cigarette smoking ass on a balcony Jay Cutler for the next 2 years. That is the future.
Yeah, I'll buy a Jay Cutler jersey after this year and be all hyped, and then it'll wind up getting burned in 3 years.
That's right. Landry's going to be like, he's the best quarterback I've ever played with.
The jersey will get burned in 3 months, not 3 years. But that is the absolute Mike Tannenbaum way. He's going to have a decent season. They'll win 10 games. And because they won 10 games, he won't want to rattle the cage, and he'll sign the guy to a 4-year deal.
All right, so hold on. We are moving our way into the next area that I'd like to get to because it's not just all about Cutler, but let's talk about some expectations for your Dolphins, and then we'll hit on I don't even want to call them expectations, but we'll hit on the expectations for so the Dolphins, you brought in this guy that knows the language, right? That's the constant thing that we heard, not only from you, but just all over. He knows the language. He can go into the huddle and he can call a play right now. And he can't break the huddle and run to the line of scrimmage because he's out of breath, but he can call a play in the huddle. So that's good.
But he gets the huddle part correct, though.
We're not at the Jets yet. Stop it. Ajayi is apparently a top 10 running back in your mind. You've got a couple of young wide receivers that are able to do the thing. You've still got the guy that on defense that stomps on people's faces. What do you think a reasonable expectation for the Dolphins this year is?
I think there should be no way that they finish without at least 9 wins, and I'm only saying that because if Cutler plays up to his ability, I think he's at least on par, if not better than Tannehill. So that would wash out if he plays well. So the rest of the team is assembled as it was. Some people might have said they overachieved. That's up for debate. But if they're not going to win at least 9 games, this season's a colossal failure.
Oh, man. So you think that they're going to win 9 games?
Oh, they should.
But do you think they will, or do you think they'll win? If I set the over under at 9, you're taking what?
Well, the over under is at 7, so I would.
No. I just set my own over under at 9.
I try to stay away from betting on my own teams. Objectively, I would bet under. But I'm saying their expectations are going to be at least 9 wins.
So their expectations or your expectations? What are your expectations?
I think they should win at least 9 games, but I don't think that they necessarily will. I'm just saying that that's what I expect.
Okay. So here's what I want to do.
Oh, here we go. Can we at least wait for predictions until like week 4 of the preseason?
Yeah, but we're going to do yours first because nobody's going to listen to the show, so it's fine. I want to go through and tell me where. I want you to tell me where these 9 wins are coming from. So
here we go.
Opening week.
No, but listen. That doesn't work because you don't know who gets injured. You don't know what teams are going to be like. Like, I'm not for nothing, but I thought the Jets games last year were going to be 2 of the toughest games, and they want to be in 2 of the easiest games.
So week 1, the Buccaneers are coming into Miami. Win or loss? Anthony, keep track.
That's a loss.
Okay. Week 2, you're going out to LA to play Phillip Rivers and the Chargers.
That's a win. We play them well. We beat them well.
I'm very confused by the first 2. Week 3, you're coming into MetLife and playing the Jets in September, so the weather is obviously still warm.
That's a win.
Week 4, I guess it is. I'm not looking at buys. I don't know when your buy is. The Saints are coming to town.
Oh, that game's in London. So I'm gonna say
9:30 a.m.
I'm gonna say it's a loss.
Okay. Then you are home for the Titans.
That's a win.
The Falcons at Atlanta.
That's a loss.
Hosting the Jets.
Win.
You're in Baltimore.
Oh, it's a win.
You are hosting the Raiders.
That's a loss.
You are in Carolina.
In Carolina, I'll say it's a loss.
In Carolina. Okay.
Carolina.
You are in Foxborough.
Oh, that's a loss.
You are hosting the big bad Denver Broncos.
Oh, we can beat them. That'll be a win.
You are hosting Tom Brady and his deflated balls.
I'll say that's a win.
Of course you will. You are in Buffalo. December 7th.
That's probably a loss.
Yeah, that's definitely a loss. Definitely a loss. You are in Kansas City on Christmas Eve.
I guess that's a loss.
And you are hosting the Bills on New Year's Eve to close out the year.
All right, that's a win.
All right, how many was that at?
8.
8 wins. You got to 8. So that means, and that's not uncommon. That means one of those games
could go either way.
This and the other thing.
So,
I think you're stretching it. Then you say you're going to beat the Pats.
Agreed.
Well, we've split with them every year except last year for the last 5 years. So that's not uncommon.
All right. So in looking at your schedule, here's how I see it playing out.
Now here we go.
I see.
Here comes a 5-11 season.
I see the 26th of November in New England. Jay Cutler throws 7 interceptions.
Okay. How many sacks?
Hold on. This is assuming that he doesn't do what I've already predicted he's going to do, which is have like the transcendent season. So this is the only other option that's going to happen for your season. On the 26th of November, Jay Cutler throws 7 interceptions against the Patriots, and you totally lose your season from there. Your season goes off the rails. You lose to the Broncos at home. You lose to the Pats at home. You lose to the Bills in Buffalo. You lose to the Chiefs in Kansas City, and then you lose to the Bills at home. So you lose out once Cutler goes off the rails at that New England.
Well, where were you up to that point?
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You were in the hunt as those stupid CBS graphics like
the tailspin coming down. Is Sully going to land the plane on the water or no?
No. Cutler is going to land the plane nose first.
Nose down in South Beach.
That's right. Just right on the nose.
And I probably wouldn't be that surprised, but I would assume at that point that they would just bench him if he really had that bad of a performance.
You would lose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The last 6.
Okay.
That's what's gonna happen. Listen, those last 6 are no joke. Like you got to close out. Like you got to play the Pats twice. You got to go to Kansas City and you got to play Denver. Like
listen.
That's a horrible way to end the year.
Besides the Patriots, though, I mean, those teams aren't destined to be great. I mean,
Kansas City is one of the toughest places to play in the NFL.
Okay, but the Bills could be the Bills could very well be hot garbage. We don't know.
No, the Bills will be hot garbage because they're the Bills. They're the reason why we don't represent them here on the basement of the AFC league. Okay?
I mean, the Broncos could suck too. Who knows?
But their defense is going to be good. That's all that matters against Jay Cutler.
Listen.
I don't know. Anthony,
I would be.
How do you see it?
Here we go.
I mean, honestly, if Jay Cutler starts 16 games, I'm calling aside from the actual like you said, the tongue-in-cheek Mike Tannenbaum, predictable future. If we're going based on reality, they win 5 games maximum.
Come on.
And I'm actually them having Jay Cutler is the reason the Jets will win a game.
So you think the Jets are going to beat them?
Yeah, they'll win 1 out of 2. Unfortunately.
You think you're going to beat them at home or away? Probably away, right? There's more Jet fans
away
than there are at the home game.
Yeah, they'll win down there. They'll get slaughtered up here and then win down there.
When do we play them in Miami? We play them
late October.
October 22nd in Miami. So it's not even like a reprieve from the cold weather. I don't know.
No, it won't matter. It'll be a bloodbath.
What do you think, Nick?
5 pick sixes.
What do you think the highlights of your year are going to be? Like, do you think your running game is really what's going to drive the success of the team? Do you think where do you see if this goes well, the team's going to have a good year?
I think I wish Sean was on the show because they just drafted this guy at Ohio State, a linebacker, Raekwon McMillan, who's supposedly a stud, and they added Lawrence Timmons from the Steelers in the offseason. So I think between them two and Kiko Alonso, I think their linebackers are going to be the driving force for the defense. If their running defense was pretty bad last year, and even the Jets were able to run all over them last year, I think if their run defense solidifies, they're going to be a team that is going to be around that 9-win mark. But if not, I could very well see them around 6-10 or 7-9 if that really goes off the rails.
But so you're really relying on your defense then to set the tone.
I would say so. Just because their defense kind of fell off the end. Remember that wild card game, man? The Steelers were like running through them like Swiss cheese. I know they're a great offense, but our defense fell apart at the end of the year. You got to solidify that before anything else.
Are you disappointed at all with the amount of money that they threw at Sue?
What I came to realize was that was what the market was set at. However, one guy in the middle of the defense is not going to be able to solve your running defensive issues because they're just double team him every time. And he doesn't move from a double team, but he can't make a play. And it forces the linebackers to make plays. And our linebackers in recent history have been hot garbage. So that just shows that you can game plan for a guy like that. So I think it shows maybe, be hesitant to throw money like that at someone who's not a quarterback.
The only guy that I saw that I thought would have been worth that kind of money in the prime of his career was probably Will Fork.
Right.
I think Will Fork did exactly what they were hoping Sue was going to do.
And don't get me wrong, Sue's been a great player, and you watch the film, and he's very disruptive, but he can only do so much. When you double team him with two giant offensive linemen, there's only so much he can do, and he doesn't change the game that much. So
the entire purpose of a guy like a Sue or Will Fork is to take up those double teams so somebody else can come in and make the play. And occasionally, while disrupting, they slip in between their two guys and they kill somebody. But Sue's biggest problem is his attitude. And when he's not, making big plays, he's getting upset and causing problems and doesn't want to play the defense that's called. So to me, the guy could be great. But Vince Wilfork, to me, best gapper to ever do it, in my opinion, and definitely underrated.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. All right, Nikki, any last things that you want to say about the Dolphins before we have to jump into the toxic sludge dumpster fire that is the New York Jets?
Well, you're going to go into the Jets, but one more thing I would say is that, we're talking about predictions and expectations. The problem is every single year they only have one option to the playoffs, and that's through a wild card berth, because there's no way they can ever win the division. So that handcuffs them to the point where if they're in any other division, it allows them to have that option to maybe beat some teams in their division and get to the title. But now they only have an option to be in a road game playoff way. So I don't know. It's just tough.
That does suck. And I will say that it hasn't been fun over the last almost 2 decades that the Patriots have dominated the AFC East. But I will say that, the road to the Super Bowl through the playoffs, if you're a road team, doesn't seem as difficult as everybody once thought it was. I mean, you look at the couple of years the Jets made their way to the AFC title game. The Steelers have had a lot of success playing as a road team. I just, the Packers,
the Giants too.
The Giants, I think the home team scenario is a little bit overrated in the NFL for playoffs over the last 10 years or so. What do you think?
I agree, but at the same time, you got to play the Super Bowl champion twice a year, and that doesn't help matters. So even if you steal a game from them every year, you're definitely going to lose at least one. So that just again handcuffs you.
Although to be fair, I would be just fine making the wild card, losing 2 games to them in the regular season, and then beating them in that 3rd game in the playoffs.
Oh, absolutely. I know you know that feeling.
Yeah, I mean that. But listen, it's very difficult to beat a team in any sport 3 times in 1 year. Very, very difficult.
Right.
So we'll see. All right,
Jets time.
Let's talk about the Jets. We've got 2 guys here that are longtime Jet fans. Been following the team for a million years. Anthony, I'm going to go to you right off the bat, I guess, and just tell me, where is your current state of mind with this team, with this franchise? Let's start with the direction this year and then go forward from there.
My current state of mind is covered in a bullet that went through my head about a week ago. They're literally – what?
I said, and what was that bullet name?
I can't answer that question.
Yeah, I know.
But about my state of mind is that this season is has a purpose. That purpose is to go 0-16 and get a quarterback and hope that quarterback doesn't pull a John Elway on you and decide not to come play for your team.
So you're talking about the kid from USC.
Yeah, even though we have a horrible history with USC quarterbacks, the fact is we haven't had a franchise quarterback ever. Obviously name it, but if you're going to sit here and call, Ken O'Brien, who did have some nice years, and Chad Pennington, who had some nice years, franchise quarterbacks, you're crazy. I mean, every other team in our division has had a Hall of Fame quarterback based on their numbers. We have a Hall of Fame quarterback based on a big prediction in one game and the AFL winning a Super Bowl over the NFL. So, to me, we're looking at a rough season where you don't have a quarterback, and you know what? I kind of prefer it that way. I think that this blow up needed to happen.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I just think that. All right, I'm not even going to go that direction. Let's go. The latest news is probably the one guy that you and I wanted to see play this year and develop and see what he could do as the number one option. Quincy Enunwa goes out for the year with a bulging disc in his neck. You hear this and you think what?
We won't have to pay him next year? No, honestly, you're right. On the offensive side of the ball, he was the one guy I was really looking to watch and see if he could be something after he showed some flashes last year. But when it happens, what do I think? I think this is the team that I chose. This is the business we have chosen. Like, that's how I feel when it comes to the Jets, is that we have come to know and embrace this scenario.
I just think, like, when you look at now the roster, right? You're sitting there and you're looking around and you're like, oh, wide receiver.
This guy here is dead.
Right? You have no idea who people are, right? Like, you're looking at a laundry list of names. Like, I know who Robbie Anderson is, but I only know who Robbie Anderson is because I'm a Jet fan. There's not a person not a fan in the league that knows who that guy is. And now he's probably like our number one wide receiver going into the year. Like, who the hell are they going to forget about who the quarterback is? Who is he throwing the football to?
The Indians are they still shitty. that's what we're dealing with. We are the Cleveland Indians in Major League. Hey, Bilal Powell will catch the balls out of the backfield.
Oh, he's going to be a PPR heaven for someone.
He will be hurt in week 4.
Oh, here we go.
He's gonna be. Look, he's their only. Him and Matt Forte are their only two offensive options. They're both going to go down. They're both going to go.
Hey, we have Jenkins at tight end. I mean, that guy's a monster.
Listen, if anybody knows anything about the Jets, it's where a tight end goes to get paid and die, because we haven't thrown the ball to a tight end in about 5 years. The last tight end.
It's been longer than that.
Can you name the last productive tight end the Jets have had?
Dustin Keller.
Mickey Schuler.
You can't. The answer is you can't, because the last time we had a productive tight end, the tight end was not an emphasized offensive position in football. Dustin Keller doesn't count.
The last guy we had. No, Dustin Keller doesn't count. Mickey Schuler in 1985 was the last time we had a productive tight end. We have drafted, New York becomes tight end. I mean, that's what we do. We draft shitty tight ends way too early in the first round, and they go to waste. Johnny Mitchell, Dustin Keller, Kyle freaking Brady. Does the list have to keep going?
No, it ends.
How many bums do we have to bring in?
It actually starts and ends with Kyle Brady, to be fair.
Yep, Warren Sapp. Yep. No, we'll take Kyle Brady.
I have something to say.
Oh, good.
So, the expectations are low. I've been in this situation before. 2007, Miami went 1-15. That was a miserable year. But the point I'm trying to make is I'm listening to New York sports radio a lot, and these people calling in. They're saying they're hoping the Jets tank. They hope that they suck. It's great and all. But two things I would say is, just because you have a top draft pick doesn't guarantee success. And second of all, come September 10th, 1 o'clock Eastern time, Jets about to kick off. You cannot tell me that you guys are not going to be chomping at the bit, looking to root for your team, screaming at the players, screaming at the refs. Like, you're going to be into it. You're going to root for them every single week.
That's right. We will, because we're assholes. That's the way it goes. We will look at these players and root for the guys that we We're going to root for the team because that's what we do. And we're especially going to root for the guys that we want to see do well. We're going to hope that Muhammad Wilkerson returns to form. I want to see our 2 rookie safeties come to play and do well. But I don't want to win games this year. What's the point of winning 6 more games and having another bad draft pick? You might as well go for broke and get the best one. Now, we all know that the Jets will try to win 0 games, and because of that, they will win 5. And they won't get the first overall pick anyway. That's the life of a Jets fan.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, but here's the thing, right? You said in 2007 the Dolphins had a trash year, and then they had the number 1 pick in 2008.
Right.
Right, and you went out and you drafted Jake Long.
Yep.
How do you feel about that?
He was a good player, but he didn't like change the franchise around. The franchise changed around when it really didn't change around because they just kept being a mediocre team. The point I'm making is even a guy like Andrew Luck, who is once in a decade type player, he made a difference in Indianapolis, absolutely. But you can see the injury problems that have caused him concern the last few years, and he hasn't been the same player. And the Colts are not, I wouldn't say, are in a much better position than they were.
Well, that's the thing and I'm glad you brought it up because I actually feel this way too. And I know, Anthony, I don't think you do. I think you feel opposite of what I'm about to say. I think the Jets are this like unicorn chasing fan base. Like they're just expecting that if we have this dog shit year where we win 1 game and we get the first pick and we get the kid from USC, that he's going to suddenly be Elway. And I just think it's insane to assume that any one player is going to go to any franchise and suddenly be that guy. You have just of the number 1 pick being Ryan Leaf and doing what he did, as you do, is having a 5th round pick or a 6th round pick turning out to be Brady. Like a lot of it is just where you are, who you've surrounded yourself with, and what you've been able to pick up as you enter into the league. I don't understand any of these Jet fans that are like, I hope we lose every game and we can draft the kid. I don't know if this kid's going to be any good. He could be dog shit. I have no idea.
You're right. You're absolutely right. And I actually agree with you. I've obviously the first overall pick doesn't mean you're going to be great. Jamarcus Russell, Akili Smith, Ryan Leaf, like we've seen it 1,000 times. But your odds typically are a little bit higher if that's the case. Now, to me, getting a higher draft pick is better than watching your team go out and win 5 games. It just is. Like, why do you want to watch the team win 5 games?
You know what it is, though? I would argue that teams are built in that second and third round of the draft, right? That's where you get guys that have great value and can be cornerstones for a defense or maybe an offensive line or receiver. The difference between the first and the 4th pick sometimes is significant, but sometimes isn't. And if I'm a fan, I'm going to root for the Dolphins to win as many games as possible, and you, as the Jets fans, are going to root for them to win as many games. I don't know about you, but I would be absolutely miserable watching them lose all 16 games. I would rather them win 6 games. I mean, at least you get some competitiveness. And you know what? It creates a culture where they're not going to settle. They're not going to be some team that just falls over for these other teams. They're going to go out there and fight. And you build around, whoever you can build around.
You're half right, because I will not be disappointed if they go out and win 3 games. If I see Adams turn into a player, if I see my defensive line just shut down running games, like I won't be upset if they win 2-3 games. If the pieces that they've drafted and that they've put in place that are supposed to do what they do it. I will be shocked if they win 6 games because they have maybe the worst offense I've ever seen on paper. Now, it's on paper, so who knows what's going to happen. But from my perspective, there's holes all over the offensive line. There's a huge hole at quarterback, and you've got a Hall of Fame running back at the end of his career who can't stay, who last year couldn't stay on the field, and a glorified 3rd down back who I love. He's a great player to have on your team to be that change of pace back. Bilal Powell's not a bell cow, so the offense is abysmal. So I cannot sit there and say this team's going to win 6 games. But I'm going to root for them to win every game they play. But I'm not going to be as riled up this year as I have been in years past when they've crapped the bed. I'm just not, because the expectations are not there.
See, here's what I think. I mean, Nick, you're young, and that's not an insult. You still have that same sense that Jeff and I had, when we were young, when the Jets went 2-14 and 1-15 in back-to-back years. We have a sense of humor about our team because we are used to seeing this. Jeff and I have gone to games with bags over our heads because that was the best we could do. So we look at our team. We've seen the butt fumble. We've seen places where we said it can't get any worse than it is right now, and 4 minutes later it gets worse.
Yeah.
So we're able to look at our team with a sense of humor because that's what we've become used to. It's like being a Knicks fan.
Oh, I can't. We can't talk about that.
God has stricken me with being a Mets fan, a Jets fan, and a Knicks fan.
I don't know how you.
And the Knicks and the Jets are the two worst run organizations in sports. So we have a sense of humor about our team.
Right,
Dolphins, you've got pride. You've got a lot of pride with your history. The players you had, the Super Bowls you won.
Listen. For the last 10 years, the Jets have been the better franchise by far, and I haven't witnessed any of that history. It's only something I watch on YouTube. The point I'm making is, when it comes down to it, I understand that expectations are low, and I understand that there's a lot of stuff going on in the organization. There's question marks. But like Jeff was saying, I don't understand this unicorn chasing that people are going after. If anything, the Jets' playoff runs should have told you is that you got to build a full team. And when you build full teams, that's how you do it to get sustained success. And I think the problem is when you have guys like that you can get in the second and third round, fourth round of the draft, that's where you can build the team. You're not going to build a team with number 1 overall picks. That just doesn't happen.
True. And it's probably not a good idea to use a second round draft pick on a quarterback and then not play him at all the year after you draft him, and in camp the next year,
right,
have him not be able to even break the fucking huddle properly. Right. This is the second round draft picks that we've had. So
But listen, like let's say the Jets drafted, Miami drafted McMillan in the second round. Let's say the Jets drafted a stud linebacker in the second round instead of Hackenberg. Now you create a culture where you're building players. You get 4 maybe solid players every draft that you keep building on, and then 3 years later you have a solid core to work with.
I agree with you, but I don't think we've had a draft that's worth really celebrating. We've had some good draft picks, but I don't think we've had a draft that's really been worth celebrating since the year we drafted Mangold
and DeBrickashaw, right? Was that the same draft?
So
no, they were a year apart.
Yeah, no. Well, no. Then I'm talking about the Brickashaw and Revis.
Revis, yeah.
Mangold and Revis. Whatever draft was where they got 2 of those guys was really the best draft.
Yeah, and then they had David Harris in that same era too. Like they built guys through the draft that wound up being cornerstones to those 2 playoff runs.
And where is David Harris?
Yeah, we've. And
who cares?
Exactly. Before we actually move on to who cares, I do want to ask Nick and then Anthony your legitimate prediction number of wins. New York Jets. Nick, go.
4-12.
4-12. Anthony.
2-14.
I agree. 2-14. All right, let's do who cares, and then do some last call and get on out. Greg Schiano was quoted this week saying that this Ohio State defensive line is the best D line he's ever coached.
Is he in Ohio State now? Is he in Ohio State now?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Whatever.
He coached in the NFL. Like, you can't tell me that the defensive line he's coaching at Ohio State is the best defensive line you've ever coached. Like, he had Pro Bowlers on his defensive line in Tampa.
Was he just talking about collegiate? Maybe
no,
I don't know.
They asked him that, and he was like, "No, we only have we had the one guy in Tampa." But
oh, please,
Greg Schiano.
Who cares?
Keep chopping, you douche.
JP's head just exploded.
You got this one.
So Alex Rodriguez called Yoenis Cespedes a 5-tool player, and he was talking about how he, 5-tool player, running, throwing, hitting, all that stuff. And I'm just like, how could you call Yoenis Cespedes a 5-tool player? The guy literally only knows how to hit the baseball, does not run. Anytime he makes a diving effort, he pulls a hamstring. Like, how is that a 5-tool player?
Mets fan?
I mean, how do I feel about him?
Yeah, 5-tool player.
He hits the. He's a 5-tool player. If you're talking about the 5 tools of injury, how many times did he get hurt in a year? Yeah, then he's a 5-tool player.
Hamstring, groin, quad.
I think you misunderstand what A-Rod meant. A-Rod meant he's a driver, a 5-iron, a pitching wedge.
Oh, that's what it is.
The 5-tool player.
Who cares?
Yeah. Nicky, this one.
All right. Spike Lee's holding a rally for Colin Kaepernick in New York City in a couple weeks. How do you guys feel about that?
Can he play shooting guard?
Probably.
What do we need? I guess we need him to play. I guess we need guard help, right? Maybe he can run the point too. I don't know. I don't know what Frenchie Frank can do.
Did you guys see the original run of this story?
No.
The original run of this story was that the protesting group said that they would not stop protesting games and try and block people from going into NFL preseason games if the NFL didn't step in and give him a starting job. That was the original article.
There's two
which
things.
2 days later was corrected.
There's two things wrong with that. One, you can't give anybody a job. Two, there's already something that's going to stop people from entering NFL preseason games, and it's called NFL preseason football.
And they force you to buy the tickets. Don't they force you to buy the preseason games with the ticket package?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah, it's the same price as the regular season game.
Of course it is.
No, there's flex pricing.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't apply to the beer prices, though.
What was the I don't buy beer in the stadium. It's a sucker's bet. What was the rationale? What was Spike quoted or no? Anybody see?
He said something along the lines of something with racism and how the NFL is blackballing Colin Kaepernick, and he's doing a rally in support of what Kaepernick was protesting, along with him getting a job.
Do you know how many people were at the first protest in May?
How many?
70.
How many?
70 people. 70 were at the first protest in May. Hot button issue. Who cares?
Is Colin Kaepernick not a starting quarterback in the league right now, Anthony, because he's black?
No, Colin Kaepernick is not a starting quarterback in the league because you can't, I don't go to work and talk politics to a point where it might offend people. You don't do that on the job. If you want to be an activist, an advocate, go out and do that. Go out and do your thing. But you don't do it at work.
I will say that I think just the kneeling with the national anthem was not that big of a deal. The issues came when he started wearing the pig socks to practice to represent the police in a derogatory way, and he wore the Fidel Castro shirt and defended it. I think that's where he went off the rails. I think that's where people lost him.
That's exactly right, because there are other guys who have kneeled, who followed his lead, and they still have jobs. But you can't take it to that level. You just can't do that.
So what you're saying is you will not be attending the Colin Kaepernick rally in New York held by Spike Lee.
I mean, listen, if Spike pays me to go, then I'll go. But
he got
other than that, no.
Who cares?
Adrian Peterson came out this week saying he's a vegan. Well, he's actually an 80-20 vegan. He eats vegan meals, and he's on Isogenics, which he buys from Anthony's brother. And when he drives by chicken places, I'm not making this up. When he drives by chicken places, he goes, "Oh, that 3-piece looks great. I gotta have it."
What kind of logic is that?
60% of the time, it works all the time.
But when he's not eating the 3-piece fried chicken in New Orleans, he does buy Isogenics from Anthony's brother Mark. Also,
he should ask.
A long-suffering Jet fan.
He should ask how Arian Foster likes being a vegan, because he hasn't really stayed healthy. But he did say he could kill a wolf. Remember that?
I do remember that.
So maybe Adrian Peterson can kill a wolf now that he's vegan. Who knows?
I think Adrian Peterson could kill a wolf if he tried to pour the Isogenics down the wolf's throat. The wolf would be like, "This stuff tastes like shit. What are you putting down my throat?"
I think Arian Foster pulled a hammy on his way to the wolf.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Paul Meliganyagi, Colin McGregor's ex-sparring partner, called him, quote, "one of the biggest dirtbags I've ever met."
It's not surprising.
Yeah, like seriously, like that is the definition of who cares. The definition of who cares would be like, really? Are you kidding? He's a dirtbag? Conor McGregor? Like, who are we? Like, I get why he's calling him a dirtbag because he released pictures of him looking like he was weak and McGregor was strong. Like, what did he think he was signing up for? Like, that's what I don't understand. This guy, like, he thinks that he's signing up for a situation where like anything that gets released is going to be able to put this guy in a positive light. Like, you're the human punching bag, dude. Like,
I mean, most of these UFC fighters are douchebags. So I mean, it's like it's not surprising that the best guy is the biggest douchebag.
I think it's probably a prerequisite. Right?
Probably.
How could you possibly be a good fighter unless you're a dick?
Who cares?
This was you, Nick.
Yeah, I saw some video. Stephen A. Smith said that the only reason Jay Cutler got his job was due to white privilege. And he said that if he was not white, he would not have gotten the job. You know, he failed to acknowledge the fact that Adam Gase likes Jay Cutler, but let's not, bring facts into this.
He forgot to mention the fact that Adam Gase coached Jay Cutler, that Jay Cutler knows the offense, that Jay Cutler, was available, like all this stuff. Like, no, it's strictly because he's white, right?
Yeah, that's the only reason he got a job. So whatever, Stephen A. Smith.
Do you think that him being white played any role in him getting this job, Nick?
If you say that, let's say Chip Kelly was the coach or whatever. Who was the coach? Jim Harbaugh. Let's say Jim Harbaugh was coaching the Dolphins, and the same thing happened. I would think that Colin Kaepernick would get the call before Jay Cutler would in that situation because they know each other.
Right. So it's a system decision.
I think it's a system decision. I honestly believe that.
I agree. I think it's a system decision. However, if you were to put the two next to each other and take away the relationship that Cutler had with the coaching staff in Miami, I think Kaepernick gets the call based on the Castro situation. But anywhere else in the league, yes, I think Colin Kaepernick gets the call.
But the bottom line is Jay Cutler did not get the job because he's white.
Agreed.
It's a nonsensical argument. You're creating a race argument where there isn't one. It just there's plenty of other teams you can look around the league and say you're not hiring Colin Kaepernick and you have a quarterback that's not as good and you should sign him. That's fine. I don't have an issue with it.
Right. I agree.
This is not it.
Who cares?
All right, we're at the last portion of the program where we go through in last call and anything that has come up that we have not yet discussed that we do want to hit on. I guess we'll go to Nikki first. Nick, anything that we haven't talked about that you want to hit on?
I want to bring up something interesting. Joe Girardi is known as a manager who is very reserved, does not say much to the media, and he outwardly called out Gary Sanchez to the media a few years ago. I thought that was interesting because if you're going to get called out by Joe Girardi, you're doing something wrong. And Gary Sanchez has been absolutely abysmal as a catcher defensively this season. Offensively, he's put up pretty good numbers, but if the Yankees want to bank on him being a cornerstone piece for the next 10 years or so, he's got to clean up his act behind the plate.
Yeah. And I think, I know he said it through an interpreter, but I think he basically admitted that, didn't he?
Yeah, he pretty much said my performance has to get better, but he just looks, I don't know if he's really injured. He might be really banged up, but he just looks very lazy back there.
I think the biggest problem that Gary has had this year is Aaron Judge.
Why is that?
Well, because last year it was all Gary Sanchez. Like, we ended the year with Gary Sanchez, and it was like, wow, this guy's incredible. And there was no pressure because they weren't going to make the playoffs. And then this year, Judge has come out and had an MVP type of year in his rookie year, kind of overshadowing him, and they're actually playing meaningful games. So it's a little bit, I think, I hurt him. He's not the cornerstone that everybody thought he was going to be, 12 months ago.
Yeah, I agree, but we'll see what happens.
Anthony, you got anything?
No.
Okay, I did see that the Knicks signed Michael Beasley. Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw that.
1-year deal, the veterans minimum. He actually had a pretty decent year last year.
I actually like him as a player.
Yeah, he averaged just like a little over 9. He was 9.5 points a game, 3.5 rebounds. 16 minutes a game for the Bucks. So I think the Knicks are a worse team than the Bucks. So he'll probably get some more touches. Look, he was the number 2 overall pick for the veterans minimum. I don't have a problem with taking the flyer on him. I think that's probably a good pickup.
Yeah, I do have one. I forgot.
Okay, go ahead.
The NFL preseason rankings came out, and can someone explain to me how the Redskins are number 9?
You like that?
No. No. I mean, they're the Giants at number 2, which, given the improvements they've made, especially at the wide receiver spot, I could see them being top 4. 2 was a little high, but putting the Skins at number 9 and the Eagles at number 22, I mean, the Skins are not the 9th best team in football.
I just think it comes down to these rankings that these so-called analysts make. They don't know anything more than we do. I mean, it's just you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know how teams are going to play out with injuries and stuff. It's all a joke.
They're the preseason rankings are the very reason why this segment exists.
Who cares?
Everybody likes to talk, and there's no actual substance behind all of it. All right. Well, thanks for taking the time, everybody, to listen. You can find us on iTunes, on Stitcher, on TuneIn, on all this other junk where you can find your podcasts. You can check out our Snapchat. Apparently, especially tonight,
it's lit,
super lit. So you can find us there. I think Brett might be snapping from Shitty Field tonight. So we've got two NL East games going on right now. Yampo at what's that park called in DC? I don't even know. Wherever the Nationals play.
Nationals Park.
Sentinels.
The Sentinels Park. You got to have heart. It's all about heart. Miles and miles of heart. Anyway, thanks for taking the time, everybody. We will be back next week. Anthony, thanks for joining us this week, bud.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll see. Maybe we'll check in with you, be our weekly Jets correspondent. You can be like Ollie, our news, our Blackie weather forecast, where you just come in and scream one word after every Jet game.
It's raining L's.
Throwing picks. We got butt fumbles. But until next time, everybody, thanks for taking the time.
Desperandum, dear lady. Across the desert lies the promised land.
See you.
Goodbye, Mrs. Gloop. Adieu. Auf Wiedersehen. Gesundheit. Farewell.
Fare thee well to you, my own true love. River Mercy, fare thee well. I am bound for California, a place that I know right well. So fare thee well, my own true love. When I return united we will be. It's not the leaving of Liverpool that's grieving me, but my darling, when I think of thee. Now I signed on a Yankee Clipper ship. Davy Crockett is the name, and the captain's name, it is Burgess, and they say that she's a floating shame. So farewell, my own true love. When I return united we will be. It's not the leaving of Liverpool that's grieving me, but my darling, when I think of thee. Now I sailed with Burgess once before, and I think that I know him well. If a man's a sailor, he will get along. If he's not, then he's sure in hell. So farewell, my own true love. When I return united we will be. It's not the leaving of Liverpool that's grieving me, but my darling, when I think of thee. All right, Dio. Sun is on the harbor, love. Oh, I wish that I could remain, for I know that it will be a long, long time before I see you again. So farewell, my own true love. When I return united we will be. It's not the leaving of Liverpool that's grieving me, but my darling, when I think of thee. One more time. So farewell, my own true love. When I return united we will be. It's not the leaving of Liverpool that's grieving me, of my darling when I think of thee.
Well, my hangover's gone and I'm thirsty for more.